this is Paul Mackey, and you're listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts on podcast. It's day 15 of the Dog Days of Podcasting Challenge and the Dog Days of Trivia. Hey, Michael Butler, I confess that I just don't see enough live music to have a story about a dead musician or rock star. Dead musicians I can think of having seen are just Dick Dale I saw play at the Caboose in Minneapolis, and I saw Sinead O'Connor play Riverfest in St. Paul back in 1990, but I don't have any stories to speak of with either of those. I think pretty much everyone else I've seen in concert is still kicking around as far as I know, and stories are few and far between as well. I saw Freddie Johnston try to beat up some hecklers at Taste of Minnesota on the state capitol grounds back in 2000, and it was a little bit of a story that I could relate, but of course Freddie is still with us. I'll try to see if anyone else I've seen has shuffled off to Buffalo, but like I said, I don't tend to have stories to relate, sadly. But after today's answers, I do have a pair of questions that are both specifically music-related, so let's get into that. Right, welcome back to the Dog Days of Trivia on One Idjit's Thoughts on podcast. This is Paul Mackey, and I'm presenting to you yesterday's answers. Right, it was a very Minnesota-centric set of questions this past time. We've got Minneapolis music venue First Avenue, first put on the map by Prince in 1984 with the release of the film and album Purple Rain, much of which was recorded live at the club. It was first opened as a nightclub on April 3rd, 1970 with a Joe Cocker concert under a different name. When it was first built in 1937 for a company founded in Hibbing, Minnesota in 1914, what sort of building was it? It was a bus depot. That first club name was The Depot. The Greyhound Line's bus depot was relocated from the building in 1968, and then it was called the Depot, and after that, Uncle Sam's during the disco era, and finally becoming First Avenue on New Year's Eve, 1981. And second, on May 4th, 1984, Dave Kingman of the visiting Oakland A's was batting against the Minnesota Twins. He hit the ball, and soon afterward, confusion reigned in the stadium. The situation was unprecedented, but eventually the hit was a ground rule double. The answer? The ball was hit into a ventilation hole in the Metrodome roof and never came back down. Mickey Hatcher, the Twins' first baseman, bounced a ball he stole from an umpire as though it had fallen back down and tried to tag Kingman out, but no one bought that ruse. And those were the answers from yesterday. Hope you got some good points. Now into the questions for today. All right, we're sliding into another year here with a new hot number 2. It appears the Los Angeles Times and some of its readers would accept the figurative meaning in this case. The paper placed the song at number 1 on their video bottom 10, and a reader dismissed it as Gumby Goes Disco. Still, the Rick James-produced song was at number 2 on the Billboard chart for 2 weeks in late 1985, held down by Lionel Richie with Say You, Say Me. Please name that song and artist. And August of 1985 saw the release of the single that you're going to have to name, title, and artist off of these scant clues. The band in question got its name after legal negotiations over what it was allowed to call itself. Other iterations of the band date back to formation in 1965. And that song? Well, in 2011, a Rolling Stone magazine readers' poll listed it as the worst song of the 1980s by a landslide. And in 2016, GQ went further, calling it the worst song of all time. Name it. And those are the questions of the day. This is the Dog Days of Trivia on the One Idjit's Thoughts on podcast. And I wish you happy hunting.